Hi, everybody. Ross Porter here, and we have another special guest for us today. A man who has been a history maker in baseball and also surgical procedure. And it's a great pleasure for me to welcome Tommy John.
Thank you, Ross. I appreciate that.
I'd like to give our viewers a couple of headlines to get started, just to set it up.
Sure.
Only one man among the 20,000 plus who have played Major League Baseball remained in the big leagues longer than Tommy. He was there pitching for 26 seasons until he was 46 years old. Nolan Ryan went 27 years. Tommy John won 288 games, the second most victories of any pitcher since 1900, not in baseball's Hall of Fame. Not. Tommy John agreed to undergo an experimental surgery that had 1% chance of succeeding, saving his career and ultimately hundreds of others. Yes, it's been a fascinating journey. And before we focus on the aforementioned subjects, Tommy, you contracted COVID-19, not what a 78-year-old wants to have happen. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I was in the hospital 5 different times.
Oh,
And the last time they sent me home to die,
no.
this was at Eisenhower Medical Center in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And they sent me home, and Cheryl, my wife, thank God, she was smart enough. She called a doctor over in LA at USC Keck. And they had been talking, and they got me in. They sent an ambulance, took me over, and I was in Keck for about 5 or 6 days. I got everything taken care of. Then I came down with a thing called Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where your lower extremities are paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a wheelchair for, golly, a long time. I couldn't walk.
Wow.
And now I'm on a walker, and I'm going to work this week on walking without the walker. Trying to get some movement in, but it's going to take time. And
What month did this start? First of the year?
December 13th.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, glad to see you looking as well as you do, my friend. Good.
it's making.
You are from Terre Haute, Indiana, born there.
That's right.
Went through high school in the city there. A very good basketball player, I'm told. And of course, in Indiana, that is a hotbed sport. You were recruited, I know, by several colleges, including the University of Kentucky. Did you ever consider choosing basketball over baseball?
No. And I say this now just to be funny, but I said a 6'3" white guy that can't jump real high, you don't have a very good chance of playing basketball. But I love basketball. I love to play it. And I had close to 50 scholarship offers in basketball.
Wow.
Excuse me. And 1 in baseball. How about that? University of Illinois was going to give me a full ride if I didn't sign. And the baseball coach pulled my dad and I aside, and he said, he's going to get a lot of looks. It's going to cost you, meaning Mr. John, my dad, about $10,000 to $15,000 for 4 years to send him to Illinois. You get that or more, you take the money, and I looked at him and I said, you are the first college coach I've ever been around that has spoken the truth.
Yeah.
And Cleveland offered me $40,000, and my agent sold me short. my agent was my dad.
Did he get a commission?
Well, no, I bought him a car.
Oh, well, that's even better.
I bought him a car.
Well, now, when you were a pitcher in high school, you had a record, not too bad, 28 wins, 2 losses. Was your best pitch even then a curveball? And if so, who taught you how to throw it?
We had a guy in our city that played basketball at my high school. His name was Arlie Andrews. And he, out of high school, he signed a contract to pitch for the Philadelphia Phillies. He was in their organization. He was in an automobile wreck and messed his arm up and didn't go. And so anyhow, when I got to be about 13, maybe 14, my dad took me up to Arlie's house. We went in his backyard and he said, okay, you grip the ball this way, you get here and you pull down. I said, okay. I got there, boom, and I did it. And he said, have you ever worked on a curveball? I said, no. And he said, that's the spin you want on the curveball. Just keep doing what you're doing and you'll be fine. So that's what, and people ask me, they say, oh, you got this, you got that. I threw a fastball, a sinker, and a curveball. When I left the game, I was 46. I was working on a changeup as my third pitch. I never learned how to throw a changeup. I couldn't grasp it. But so all these guys say you've got to have all these pitches and that. No, you got to have pitches that you can control. And you make the batter make an adjustment, either slower or harder.
Tommy, you were also a top flight student, graduated as the valedictorian of your class. However, you were not allowed to deliver the valedictorian address.
That's right. Because I had a stutter. Did you see the movie King's Speech?
Yeah.
The king would get, I wasn't that bad, but I was close to it. I just couldn't do it. In fact, Don Sutton got all the starters with the Dodgers director's chairs, and his had Sut on the back of it. Messersmith had Mess. Doug Rao had Raoul. Mine, he put TTTJ.
Oh.
And Dusty Baker saw it. He was furious. He said, who did that? And I said, who do you think did it? He said, Sutton. I said, yeah. He said, I'm going to kick his butt. I said, don't. It just, Don likes doing that. It makes him feel good. If he feels good, he'll pitch better. If he pitches better, we win games. Let him go.
How many years did you stutter? I think the first time we ever met in the 70s.
Oh,
you were, weren't you?
Yeah, big time. When I got out of baseball in 1987, I was looking for a job as I wanted to broadcast. And people go, oh my God, broadcast with your stutter? But I found out pitching, if you're forced to go to a pitch, you'll either sink or swim with it.
Yeah.
And if I've got a job doing broadcasting, I either sink or I swim. And the year that I said, screw it, I don't care if I stutter, if I don't stutter, if I do, who cares? I'm Tommy John. This is who I am. I'll be this way my entire life. Take me. And when I did that, Ross, all of a sudden I quit stammering. I quit stuttering.
How many years have gone by between?
Oh my God, I was in my latter 40s.
Wow.
Early 50s.
Wow.
And then I quit stuttering.
Wonderful. I don't know if you know this story, Tommy, but there was a young man growing up in Georgia who stuttered as a child, and his parents hired someone to help him, 7 or 8 years old. He went on to become one of Major League Baseball's very best announcers for 55 years, 42 with the Detroit Tigers. Ernie
Harwell.
Yeah.
God,
So,
I love listening to Ernie. Oh,
so just keep working and it'll work out for you sometimes.
yeah, that's exactly right.
I had the opportunity recently to chat with one of the best pitchers in the history of the Brooklyn Dodgers, a fellow Indianan, Carl Erskine, who is now 94 years old. He pitched for 5 National League championship teams, including the 1955 Dodgers, the only one to win a world title in Brooklyn. Carl also threw 2 no-hitters. And your name came up during the chat. And Carl Erskine said, now there's a pitcher who was so durable. I knew Tommy quite well. He said the secret to his success was his catcher, who told him one day, Tommy, you work too hard. When you don't throw the ball as hard, it moves more. You need to back off and just throw that sinker about 80%. Carl commented that you told him, and after that, I started winning like crazy.
Sandy Koufax had the same thing given to him by
Norm Sherry.
Norm Sherry. Sandy was there, throwing hard as he could, couldn't throw strikes, couldn't do this. And Sherry just said, back off a little bit. And all of a sudden, Sandy started pitching and winning. And mine was the same way. The more I tried to throw the ball hard, the less it would sink.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted the ball move. I wanted to start it on the middle to outside half of the plate and just let it run to the outside. And if you took it and the umpire was having a good day and he liked me, it was a strike. If not, I would have to come over the plate more.
Sandy Koufax, in the first 6 years with the Dodgers, had a record of 36 and 40. The last 6 years, he was 129 and 47.
No, one of the sports writers, when they were doing Hall of Fame voting, they were talking about Sandy, and I won 2 less ball games after my surgery than Sandy did in his career.
I know, that's an amazing stat. That's one of my 2 favorite sports stats. Tommy John won 124 games before the surgery. He won 164 games after the operation for a total of 288.
Well, this sports writer said, yeah, but Koufax's wins were better than yours.
Oh.
And I looked at him and I said, win is a win is a win.
Yeah.
You know, when I started the game to go as long as I could and to get a win. When did Sandy have better stuff than me? Yeah. He threw harder and curveball struck guys out. But he went out with the same notion as me to win. And that's what I tried to do. And I think I did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah. Who was the catcher that Carl was talking about who gave you the advice? You remember? Were you with the White Sox or Cleveland at that time?
Well, it had to have been with the White Sox, and it probably would have been John Romano or J.C. Martin or one of those guys.
Yeah. Well, Carl would like to see you in the Hall of Fame, and he went on to tell me, he said, Tommy paved the way for dozens of pitchers to make it in the big leagues. And I think that's not only the truth, but it's a great tribute to you that you did it. Tommy, we have asked members of what we call our Ross Porter Sports Facebook group to send us questions for you to answer I think you've been on our website before and know what we're doing, but I'm going to tell you this one right off the bat. And I only found this out a couple of hours ago. I got an email today from a man who identified himself as Carl from Anderson, Indiana. Erskine has lived in Anderson all of his life.
All of his life.
Yes. And so at that time, I thought, well, it's going to look at like a setup situation if I don't handle this right, just trying to get a laugh, and I don't want to do that. Later in the afternoon, I got another email from a close friend of his, Jim Denny in Anderson, who said, yeah, Carl wants you to ask that question. So here it is.
Okay.
Do you get a commission on every Tommy John surgery?
I wish. Somebody told me that. They said you should license that name. And I kind of like, if I would have done that, Ross, to me, I would have been demeaning Dr. Job, because he and I worked as a team. And if I would have said, Tommy John surgery, you got to pay this, I just, no, I don't. And I'm not the underwear guy either.
Well, that's a question that'll come up here in a few minutes that I got from somebody. But first, I want the people to hear what kind of baseball career Tommy John had. 6'3", 190-pound left-hander, signed with Cleveland out of high school. First pitched to the big leagues in 1963 before he retired in 1989. He's been a member of 6 teams, the Indians for 2 years, the White Sox for 7, the Dodgers for 6, the Yankees for 4, the Angels for 4, A's part of a year, and back to the Yankees for the final 4 seasons. Of his 26 years, he spent 20 in the American League. TJ pitched in 760 games. An even 700 as a starter. He worked 4,700 innings. That's right, 4,700. He won 288 games. He pitched 46 shutouts, lost 231, but had a lifetime earned run average of 3.34. To show you his talent and longevity, he pitched for the White Sox on opening day in 1966, and he was the Yankees' opening day hurler in 1989. I think one of the most impressive statistics in sports history is the one we just talked about, the 124 before, the 164 after. And the only pitcher with more victories, not in baseball's Hall of Fame, is Roger Clemens. And he's won 354 times, but remember, he's still eligible for 1 more year to be voted in by the sports writers if he can get over the steroid situation. But all 3 of TJ's 21 seasons came after his surgery. He had 17 years in which he won 10 or more games. 3 times he won 9. He pitched in October for 6 straight years, was in 3 World Series with the 1977 and 1978 Dodgers and the 1981 Yankees. All 3 lost. In playoffs, Tommy won 6, lost 3, and in 14 games had a fine ERA of 2.65. In World Series games, he was 2-1, and in 6 games had another good ERA of 2.67. Pretty outstanding numbers, my buddy.
Well, the other one that nobody talks about is I hold the record for the most no decisions in baseball. I have 188 no decisions.
Oh my gosh.
So you're looking for 300 wins in 188 games. There's 12, 14, 18 wins in there.
Well, at least with 188 no decisions, you probably get, what do you figure, 90 games where that would be winnable for you.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's somebody asked me, well, what are you going to do if you don't get into the Hall of Fame? I said, if getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame would make me a subpar golfer, I would campaign like a son of a gun. I said, but if it doesn't, I'm still, when I signed and my mom and dad put me on the airplane to send me to that beautiful resort city on the Mississippi River, Dubuque, Iowa. My dad said, remember one thing, who you are and where you come from. Mm-hmm. He said, you can go out and pitch and be an all-star every year. You're still Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. You can go out and get released in a couple months. You're Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. And, my dad was so right on that.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Who you are and where you come from.
Yeah. And is it true that when you feared that your career might be over, that you got a job offer and you accepted it for a while?
Well, I had a friend of mine had a car dealership in Terre Haute. And I told him, I said, I don't know with the elbow if I'm going to be able to pitch or not. But if I don't, can I come back and work for you? And he said, absolutely. Because, I was operated on September 25th, 1974. My first child, Tamara, was born September 27th, 1974. So I had a family, and I couldn't take time and go willy-nilly. I wanted to make sure that I had, in fact, Dr. Job told me that. He said, make sure you've got income coming in so that you can take care of your family. He said, that's all I worry about.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the fans. Robert from Redlands. Tommy, have you ever thought of doing a commercial for a competing underwear company that did not use your name without permission?
Well, I said I was going to come out with an underwear, female underwear, from thong to long. And I thought that might be a good one, but nah. The guy's name is Thomas Patterson. And he said, everybody called me Tommy John. So his name, I think, was Thomas Jonathan Patterson. And when he was growing up was when I was in my prime. He said, everybody called me Tommy John. Okay, yeah, all right, I'll go with you on that. But, it is what it is. And I asked him, I said, it seems to me that if I had Tommy John, I would try to get Tommy John to advertise for me.
Yeah.
And they told my wife, they said, we don't have that set up in the budget.
Oh.
Well,
and it was costing you money to pay lawyers, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've had some people look into it and what it was going to cost to get that. I said, nah, I'll live with it,
$250,000?
A little more. A little more.
Okay, good. Hey, by the way, how long have you been known as TJ, and how did you get that?
That was my dad's nickname. I've been TJ in high school.
Really?
So yeah, I graduated in 1961, and probably 59 people, they called me TJ. And I've been called that all the time. My dad was TJ, and then I became TJ. But my mom called my dad Tommy. I was Tom. And she said, he's been Tommy a whole lot longer than you've been Tom. So that's what, okay, that's what it was. He was Tommy to her when they were dating and all that. And, you know, okay, that's fine, Pop.
Jay Warner in Edmond, Oklahoma. This is super corny, but Brady Basso is a minor leaguer with the Lansing Lugnuts. And he just found out yesterday that he's going to have Tommy John surgery. He's a family friend, and a get well soon from Mr. John would make his day. Brady Basso.
Well, I wish him luck. I hope that everything turns out. You know, they do it. When I had it done, I was going to be in the hospital 5 days. And I got out early because my daughter was born. You know, now they go in the morning, they have the surgery done, and they're out that night. Yeah, I mean, it's like boom, boom, boom. Do I think it may be a little too fast? I think a lot of the stuff they do in that surgery and the rehab is a little too fast. I just think that I was glad I had it when I had it, and that Dr. Job was the one that operated on me, because he had it right here. He thought of me as a friend and not a baseball player.
That's right. And not a patient.
Right. Exactly.
Did a little research on Brady. 16th round draft choice in 2019 of the Oakland A's from Pearland, Texas. Oklahoma State University, had a 1.64 ERA at OSU 2 years ago.
Whoa.
I've got to also admit one thing, Tommy. Jay Warner is the son of my oldest friend, I think, in life, Jack Warner. We have known each other for the last 76 years.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow.
So
when you were a little boy running around Oklahoma?
Well, yeah, and the strange thing is, Lynn and I had Jack and Lynn's roommate on a double date one time. They'd never met. Do you know they got married 2 weeks after we did? And we've both been married 60 years this month.
God bless. Wow.
Wonderful.
God bless Lynn. She had to put up a lot of your BS. I can tell you that.
Oh, goodness. Here's one from a friend of ours, Los Angeles sportscaster Fred Wallen. Is Dr. Frank Jobe in baseball's Hall of Fame? He should be, because his surgery has saved many a player.
Yes, he is. I know we went down the one year when they didn't like inducting, but they put him on the wall of honor.
Yeah.
And his plaque is up on the wall. So I've got to assume that that's the same as being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Tommy, you've said that you think there should be a medical wing in the Hall of Fame, starting with Dr. Frank Jobe.
Absolutely. He did more. He's done more to save players' lives in baseball than anybody I know. And, you know, plus he was such a nice guy. God, he was just a great person.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
He kind of liked vanilla ice cream too, didn't
he? He liked ice cream, I can tell you that.
We lost Frank 7 years ago. He was 88 years old, and what a marvelous man he was. Nancy from Riverside, if you had never been a Dodger with Dr. Jobe as the team physician, do you think your life would have followed a different path?
Yes, because back then, the guy that operated on you was the team's physician. They're the team's orthopedic. And God must have been looking out for Tommy John, because I was on the right team at the right time with the right doctor. And had it been somebody else with some other team, I don't know.
Mhm.
Might not have had the same outcome.
Mike Cunert wants to know how many successful surgeries have been named after the patient rather than the doctor.
One that I know of, Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
And Davy Lopes thinks the surgery should have been named after Dr. Job. And how it became Tommy John surgery is after he did it on me and it looked like I was going to come back, he would go out and give talks. And it was the ulnar collateral ligament replacement with the palmaris longus tendon.
Mhm.
And that was such a long name that he would be talking to these orthopedics. And he said, you know, the surgery I did on Tommy John. And they all go, oh, yeah, okay. And then he shortened it down to, you know, Tommy John surgery. So it wasn't me that made that surgery by that name. It was Dr. Frank Wilson Job.
Hmm. Your son, Dr. Tommy John,
Mhm.
is he the second or the third?
Third,
On the third. He's a chiropractor.
right.
And he told Lynn and me at Tommy Lasorda's birthday party a few years ago that a man once said to him, "Isn't your dad a famous doctor?"
Yeah. People think that Tommy John was the doctor, and you know they say, "Oh man, what a great!" And I said, "Thank God they named the surgery after me." And Dr. Job was orthopedic surgeon and not a proctologist.
All right, now let's hear from you about the experience which made you what I call the medical marvel, and others refer to you as the bionic man. From the beginning, when did your left arm start hurting?
13 years old.
Was it because they were throwing curveballs?
Nope. That was when I went from little league distance at 46 feet to big league distance at 60 feet. And I just tweaked my elbow. And in Terre Haute, Indiana, we didn't have, well, maybe there was an orthopedic surgeon, but I went to the track coach, and he was pretty up on stuff, and he examined me, with my arm. Yeah, he said, you probably tore some fibers down there. So I didn't pitch at my 13-year-old year. I didn't do anything. 14, I came back, I started throwing, and I pitched 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Then my arm started hurting when I started playing pro baseball. But in that period of time, you couldn't say, oh, my arm hurts. Oh, my arm hurts, because they'd send you home. So you go, you zip it, and you pitched. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point that I had my first cortisone injection the day John F. Kennedy was assassinated. I was sitting in the orthopedic surgeon's office with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he injected my elbow. Between then and when I had the surgery done in 74, I probably had 40 or 50 injections in my elbow. Wow. And when you tell doctors that now, they go, what? Well, I would have them done by doctors that weren't involved with the ball club, because I had to pitch. If you don't pitch, you're gone. So boom, they had to inject me. And it just, when I told Dr. Job this after the surgery and all, he says, oh my God, it's a wonder that you pitched as long as you did, because they were starting to find out that cortisone injections makes the ligament weaker. Because if you think that you're jabbing a needle into tissue and it bleeds and it scars up, and you go again, and you go again. And then all of a sudden, I'm pitching against Montreal that night at Dodger Stadium. Boom. Hal Breeden's at the plate. I try to throw a sinker. Oh man, I've never experienced that kind of pain. And you know, being valedictorian, I shook my arm and said, okay, we'll try it again. Now, had I been smarter, I would have walked off the mound then. But I threw one more pitch and the same god-awful pain. And I walked off and passed Walt Alston on the way. And I said, Walter, get somebody in. And I go into the dugout, and Bill Bueller, our trainer, I said, Billy, get Dr. Jobe. I've hurt my arm. He said, I've signaled him. And back in that era of 1974, there were no off limits in the Dodger clubhouse. Press could go any place in there. One place, I take that back. The food room where the guys ate after the game, press weren't allowed in there. But they would be in the trainer's room, and oh my God, they had all this, and everybody was there. And Mike Marshall was there telling me what I needed to do and all. And Dr. Jobe said, why don't you come in? Why don't you come in and see me tomorrow? And we'll see what's going on. So I go to see him. And he said, I want you to go see a hand surgeon. And the guy's name was Herb Stark. And I went to see him, and he was from Tennessee. And he goes, boy, you really done it, boy. I said, what? You tore that. You tore the ligament. Yep, you sure did. And I said, so what are you saying? Well, if you can pitch in 2 or 3 years, get the ball from the mound to home plate, pretty successful operation, I think. And I go, what? You know, no, I don't think so. So we had the operation, and the day after the surgery, the 2 days, the 27th, I called Dr. Jobe out of surgery. He's scrubbing for an operation at Centinela Hospital. And I told him, I said, my wife's gone into labor. Can I leave and go home and be there when the baby's born? He said, do you have a ride home? And I said, yeah. Yeah, sure, go ahead. So I left, baby's born. He said, but I want you to come to the office and I want you to let me know what you guys had, boy, girl, twins, whatever. Okay. Well, I didn't tell him. My neighbor drove me home, but for me to get from home to Dr. Jobe's office, I drove. And I drove with my elbow up on the window. The window was down. I had my arm out driving one-handed. And I went to see him, and that's when he had me go see the Herb Stark, and then we started the rehab program. But there was no rehab program. There was no rehab program.
Yeah. When was the first time that Frank told you about his potential history-making surgery? What did he say that day?
I said, how can we fix this? Well, he said, I've done ligament replacement surgeries on polio patients, but I've never done them on a ball player, on a pitcher whose job is to throw a baseball. And I said, so what are we going to do? And he said, well, let me think. And he said, you know, I'll get back to you. Okay. So next time I saw him, he said, do you want to try it? He said, there's no guarantees. I said, sure, I'll try it. I said, because if I don't try it, I can't pitch doing what I'm doing now, and I want to play baseball. He said, okay, we'll get it done. And we had the surgery. I waited, I rehabbed, and I threw against a wall in Vero Beach. I got 6 baseballs every morning, put them in my glove, take them out there, put them on the ground, throw against the wall, boom, field it, throw against the wall, field it. And I may do that for a half an hour, for 40 minutes, I don't know. But then we left to go back to LA. And then I started throwing to Mark Cressy in the bullpen. And every day, except Sunday. And somebody asked me, why did you throw every day except Sunday? And I said, well, God rested on Sunday. If God rested on Sunday, so can Tommy John. And I took Sundays off. I threw Monday through Saturday. And the more I threw, the better my arm felt. And when I was out on the baseball field, I threw a baseball to a catcher every single day.
At what distance?
60 feet, 6 inches.
Regular.
Oh, that's what I've had people say, oh, you don't do the long throwing? And I said, no, because we don't throw long to start with. You throw 60 feet, 6 inches to a catcher, to home plate. Oh, but you got to throw. I said, if throwing long, if they would guarantee me throwing long would make me better, I'll do it. But I can't, and I won't, because it won't work.
Okay. As you've said, operation performed September 25th, 1974. I'm going to give everybody, Tommy, some basic facts about what took place. And everybody keep in mind that I am not a doctor. I don't have a medical degree. I'm just reading from what I have been able to discover. Okay, here we go. Dr. Frank Jobe made holes in the humerus and ulna bones of Tommy's left arm and used anchors to insert the tendon from his right forearm in what was roughly a figure 8 shape. I think, to say it another way and maybe make it easier to picture, the ligament in the left elbow was replaced with a tendon from Tommy's right forearm. That surgery lasted 4 hours. After the operation, your left hand was shriveled and you lacked feeling in several of your fingers due to damage to the ulnar nerve, and Dr. Jobe performed a second procedure to reroute the nerve. Your arm was in a cast for 4 months. You recovered the full range of motion of your arm, but still lacked feeling in your fingers for 6 weeks. You taped the fingers that lacked feeling to those who had it, and feeling came back in June of 9 months after the surgery. In September, you were sent to the Arizona Instructional League, where you not only got to pitch in a game, but you went 7 innings. Now, Dr. Jobe was unsure that the procedure's benefits would last. So he waited 2 years after your surgery before performing the second UCL reconstruction. UCLA, I keep saying UCLA. UCL stands for ulnar collateral ligament of the elbow. Frank had estimated that Tommy's chances of a complete recovery would be 1%. And when he told you that, your response, as he just said, was, what do I have to lose? Now, Sandy Koufax suffered a similar injury and had to retire at the age of 30 in 1966. You asked Dr. Job to give you a Koufax fastball, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And he did. But it was the wrong Koufax. It was Mrs. Koufax.
You know, I set you up for that, don't you? Yeah, all
I
right.
know. That's okay. We're like Abbott and Costello.
Not quite. 35 years after your surgery, the chance of a complete recovery was 85 to 92%. The procedure has become so prevalent that an estimated 1/3 of all major league pitchers have undergone it. Let me repeat that. An estimated 1/3 of all major league pitchers have had Tommy John surgery. And Dr. Job also performed the first major reconstructive shoulder surgery on a major league pitcher in 1990 and saved the career of another Dodger great, Orel Hershiser. So, to reiterate what he meant to baseball, Dr. Frank Job pioneered both elbow ligament replacement and major reconstructive shoulder surgery for baseball players.
Kind of tells you what kind of a doctor he was, doesn't it?
Mm,
He was right at the top of the totem pole.
yeah.
And had he told me, I said, this is what, had Dr. Job told me, Tommy, go take a bucket of your German Shepherd's dog poop and bury it back of second base at Dodger Stadium, I would have been out there at night with the shovel burying it because I believed in Dr. Job. I believed in whatever he said I was going to do because I knew he wouldn't BS me.
Yeah. When you walked off the field that night you faced Montreal,
Mhm.
did the thought cross your mind, this is it, I'm through?
No, absolutely not. Because I didn't know, but I was going to, I mean, I could have been, but I was going to give it every opportunity to come back and pitch because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play baseball.
All right. Well, I'd say you did a pretty good job of it. Bill in Missouri wants to know, is there a pitch in your life you wish you could take back?
A pitch in my life that I could take back? No, not really. No.
All right. One of our RP Sports members, Ruben Ibarra, asked, overall, which year did you feel was your best one?
Which what?
Which was your best year in baseball in your estimation?
'78. 77 was a big year. I won 20, but 78, no, excuse me, 77. I was 20-7 or 21-7.
Then you won 17 the next year.
And I won 17, yeah. Then when I went to the Yankees, you know, you get, it's kind of, I won more games, I pitched more innings, but you're not, it's a totally different thing where you don't have to bat, you don't have to go out on the field, you just pitch. It's a totally different atmosphere.
You've loved playing golf. What's the best round you've had?
It was funny. My first year with the Dodgers, they have a tournament, and I bogeyed the last hole and shot 68.
Vero Beach?
Vero Beach. At Dodger, I was playing with Mr. O'Malley. And Walter. Oh God, he was funny. He was a hoot. He was a hoot.
You had a good line about him one time. You said, if Mr. O'Malley keeps score, be careful, 4 and 4 might be 7.
You got that right. Yeah, you didn't want to play golf and have him keep score because you're going to lose.
Tommy's played in our celebrity golf tournament, which supports our son's nonprofit organization, Still Point Family Resources, designed to help special needs adults and children. And at our last one, you brought your two dogs who rode in the golf cart with you and your wife Cheryl for 18 holes.
Yeah.
Tell everybody the names of those dogs.
Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. They were Maltese Chihuahua. One, Arnie, got the Maltese gene, and Jack Nicklaus got the Chihuahua gene. So we go to eat a lot here in the desert at Arnold Palmer's. And Sam Saunders, who is Arnold's grandson, I go, oh, I said, I want you to meet your grandpa. He says, what? I said, here, this is Arnold Palmer. Oh no, he picked him up. He took him around. This is Arnold Palmer, Tommy John's dog, Arnold Palmer. And that's what it is. It's Arnie. And when I get back to walking to where I'm not falling down, and we go play in more tournaments, those dogs will be right there with us. Good. They go every place we go, they go.
That's good. And they love each other.
Sometimes.
Brian Wilshire asks, whom did you enjoy playing for more, the Dodgers or the Yankees?
I enjoyed the Dodgers because the Yankees, the fans were outstanding. But you had to pitch well, because if you didn't pitch well, John, you suck. You like it. But from just pure business-wise, the Dodgers were by far the best. They made it, Peter O'Malley, after Mr. O'Malley left, they made it so you couldn't fail. I mean, if you failed, it was your own doing, but they made it so easy for you to excel. Yeah. And with the Yankees, you had to pitch your best from your first pitch to your last pitch, or Steinbrenner was on you big time.
I want to talk about one game.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked at somebody and said, boy, is he disgusted?
Oh, me?
Disgusted?
81 World Series?
That's what I'm thinking about. Game 6, 81 World Series. Dodgers, Yankees. Dodgers lead the series 3-2 at Yankee Stadium. It's 1-1 in the 4th inning. And I believe the Yanks got 2 on base, didn't they?
I think so. And Lemon comes up and he said, I'm pinch hitting for you.
Manager, and he called for somebody to pinch hit. I think it was Bobby Mercer.
Bobby Mercer.
Pitch hit for Tommy John.
In the bottom of the 4th inning.
Went out. George Frazier came in to pitch. The Dodgers clobbered him, beat him for the 3rd time in the World Series that year. The final was 9-2. But I will never forget looking down into your first base dugout. You're at the
sitting there shaking my head.
And all you're doing is shaking your head as if to say, I cannot believe what just happened.
Well, we had our batting practice pitcher, a guy named Doug Melvin, who was general manager of the Baltimore Orioles for a period of time, told me George was a football guy. And he had meetings before a ball game in that World Series. This is what we're going to do. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is what you do. And his his instructions to Bob Lemon, get a lead early, and then go to the bullpen and win it out of the bullpen. And Lemon had a chance. It was 1-1. In the bottom of the fourth inning, there were 2 guys on, 2 out, and he pinch hits Mercer for me. And I told some friends of mine, I said, you know, I wouldn't have had a problem with that if they would have brought Gossage in.
Yeah.
But you bring Frazier in, and Frazier wasn't even your 3rd or 4th best pitcher out of the bullpen.
Although he is from the University of Oklahoma, I want to point that out.
Okay, all right. But he had a tough series then, but Bob Lemon was following orders from George Steinbrenner. Yeah. And it just goes to show you George Steinbrenner didn't know baseball. He had no clue.
Could they have brought Gossage in the 7th inning, or is that a little early?
7th, yeah, something like that. And he pitched. Okay, fine, but you're down 8-9-2 or whatever it was. Well, your starting pitcher is your best pitcher that day. If he's not, then he shouldn't be out there starting. So you go with your best pitcher, and I should have hit in the bottom of the 4th. Boy, I was mad. Boom, I was ready. And that's when he said, pitch it. What? He said, I'm pitch hitting Mercer for you. And Mercer flied out to deep right field, but the inning's over. And I just sat there. So anyhow, I have this charity golf tournament in Orange County. And I'm going through, and I'm looking at the celebrities. And I said, I don't see anything here from Bob Lemon. So I called Lem up. I said, Bob, Tommy John, you still talking to me? I said, yeah. He said, I thought I'd be on your do not call list. I said, that was during the season now. I said, are you playing in the golf tournament? Well, he said, I'd like to. He said, you won't do anything to hurt me, will you? I said, nah. I said, I'll even get you VO, a bottle of VO that you can have in the car and drink it. And, but that's the way it was. And when you played for the Yankees, George Steinbrenner ran the show.
You know, last week when I talked to Carl Erskine, I raised the point to him when we got into discussion about pitching coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I think that the records will prove that former catchers were more successful as managers than former pitchers.
Right.
You agree?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I think as a catcher, you have to look at the whole game. You know, you got the pitcher pitching, but the game is in front of you. And I think catchers understand that. Pitchers only know the thing of pitching, and you know, they aren't as well-rounded as a catcher. The best manager I ever had was a guy named Eddie Stanky.
Second baseman, wasn't he?
Shortstop, second baseman. Guys hated him, absolutely hated him. But I'll tell you what, you played for him and you busted your butt for him. And what did I see the other day? Somebody was talking about Eddie. Oh, Rich Gossage. Goose said, maybe it was Goose. He was the best manager, he said, I ever pitched for.
Didn't Eddie Stanky charge across the field when Bobby Thompson hit the home run to win the 51 pennant for the Giants and jump up into Leo DeRozier's arms in the third base coaching box?
We won, we won, we won. And yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was Eddie. Eddie was a good guy. He was tough, hard-nosed, but he was a good guy.
Kelly from Bakersfield. Tommy, would you rather go into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger or a Yankee?
I have no choice in where the Hall of Fame determines what hat you wear. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Betty from Modesto. How many other players extended their careers because you took a chance on getting a surgery that had a 1% chance of a successful outcome?
Well, I don't know, but a bunch did. I can tell you that. They, you know, and I'm fortunate that I was playing for the Dodgers when I needed help, and that there was the man in that upper left-hand corner up there, Frank Jobe, happened to be the Dodger orthopedic surgeon, and he operated on me. And I think he would have operated on me a second time if I needed it, because he wanted me to succeed.
Tommy, has anybody kept track of how many pitchers have had Tommy John surgery and had their careers saved?
No, I don't know how many, but you know, you were talking earlier about the second operation they had was 2 years later, and it was done on Brent Strom, another left-handed pitcher.
Right.
Strami was my pitching coach.
Huh.
And he said, the thing about it is, if it works, it's Tommy John surgery. If it doesn't work, it's Brent Strom surgery.
Good. Okay, I want to turn the attention now to your Hall of Fame candidacy. And from 1995 through 2009, you were on the Hall of Fame ballot. Now, as everybody, I think, knows, you must receive 75% of the votes cast by sports writers to be inducted. Your best year was 32%. But now you're in what they call modern baseball era. Those are players whose greatest contributions to the game were between 1970 and 1987 in that era. And I want to read you something that I came up with the other day. Somebody sent this to me, and I knew you were going to be on, so I wanted to save it. And here's the complete sheet. And to cut it down, it says, the Modern Baseball Committee shall consist of 16 members, comprised of members of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, executives, and veteran media members. The chairman of the board of directors of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum, Incorporated, shall act as the non-voting chairman of the committee and shall act as non-voting secretary of the committee. The Hall of Fame's board of directors shall appoint the committee. The committee is scheduled to meet on a cycle of twice every 5 years. You still got a couple of years to go before you are up for it, aren't you?
Yeah, I think 93 is my next time.
How about
I think.
at 2023?
At what?
How about 2023? I thought you said 1993.
2023. Yeah. Well, 93. I'd have a better chance at 93, I think.
Do you think, though, you'll have a better chance because there are Major League Hall of Famers who will comprise, I think, about 50% of the vote?
Well, the last time we were on, the two players that got the lowest vote total was Steve Garvey and me.
Wow.
You tell me on that. And I'm not saying who was on it, but I think there was a player that talked us down. That's my opinion. And my opinion doesn't mean a whole lot.
So what you're saying is, I think the last time they had 8 Hall of Famers on there, you're saying those 8 will discuss this thing in a room among themselves.
Right, yeah. And you got to have 2 or 3 guys pulling for you with those guys, with those 8 Hall of Famers. Yes, if you don't, you're screwed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think, though, that players like you have a better chance now with that kind of a voting group than the ones who never saw you play and now they're 29 years old, you know?
Well, I think you get guys back in my era, older guys, would appreciate what I did more. But, like I said, if I get in, it'll be the greatest day of my life. If I don't get in, I'll still be Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yeah, you will. You started a foundation a couple of years ago.
Yes.
I want you to talk about that.
Well, it's called Let's Do It. And when Dr. Job and I were talking about the surgery, the last thing I said to him as I left was, let's do it. And so we had the Let's Do It Foundation, and we were raising money for people with disabilities, kids that would get hurt and things like that. And we still raise money for it. And it's, I love doing work, charitable work. I love that. I love it. Absolutely love it. And my wife, Cheryl, likes doing it also. So, we enjoy doing it's called the Tommy John 288. Let's do it. 288 is not my weight, but my wins.
And it involves suicides, doesn't it?
Well, it does some, yeah. Because my son Taylor committed suicide. I get a phone call from my son Tommy in the morning, and I go to the bathroom and I look on my phone, and I see it blinking that I've got a message, so God, who called me? So I hit it, and Tommy's going, Dad, Taylor killed himself. He's dead. And this is like 4 o'clock in the morning. And you hear this word, Taylor's dead. What are you going to do? You can either do what we did with Dr. Job, you hoist your pants up and you march on, or you quit. And I'm not a quitter. So we did this, the suicide, and I remember we had the funeral service, and my son-in-law played for the Chicago Bears for 16 years. They had about 4 or 5 Chicago Bears at the funeral out of respect for their teammate. And, I didn't know him, but God, I've been a Bear fan all my life. And I became a bigger Bear fan because of what they did for my son.
I remember, though, Tommy, many more years before that, it was a happier outcome for you and the family when one of your little ones fell out a window. Tell us about that.
Well, it was 81. And we had just gotten back from a strike. And I'm in Detroit. And I'm throwing on the sidelines, doing my work in between starts. And the clubhouse guy comes out. He said, you got a phone call. What? Phone call? It's 4:30 in the afternoon. So I go up and hello, it was my wife saying that our son Travis fell out of a 3rd-story window, and that they were at the beach, and he fell He must have been sitting on, it was an old house, and the windows were maybe 18 inches off the ground. They were these big, and he was sitting there bouncing against the screen. And the last bounce, he popped out and he just fell, boom, hit his head on the car. So I go, oh man, what are we going to do? She told me where he was. And I had played golf that morning with a friend of mine in Detroit. And I called him up and I said, I've got a problem. I need to get to Point Pleasant, New Jersey. I told him what happened. Geez, Tommy, my plane's being used, but I've got a friend that's got one. Okay, well, whatever it is, I'll pay for it. And I think it cost me $1,500 to charter that plane. And we went to the hospital, saw him, and the next day, I had called a friend of mine who was a doctor out in LA. The name was Stu Siegel. And I told him, Stuart, Travis fell. I got to have a doctor in around New York to take care of him. He said, well, the best guy I know is a guy named Fred Epstein. So I called Fred Epstein at 6 o'clock in the morning. I waited till 6 o'clock. I didn't want to wake him up, but I waited till 6. And I said, Dr. Epstein, yeah, this is Tommy John. I was wondering when you were going to call. With his exact words.
Wow.
And I said, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I'm calling you now. I need help. Where are you? I told him. He said, we'll get up here. So the state of New Jersey had at that time, if you needed medical help, they would fly in helicopters. So Travis got in one helicopter with surgeons and nurses, and my wife and myself and a friend of ours was in the second helicopter. And we went up and we're doing this, going down up the coast, up the river, landed at the heliport on the east side. And they had cabs waiting for us. And we went in, and Fred Epstein became a very, very, very good friend, very good friend. And Travis walked out of the hospital 27 days later.
How old was he?
2.5.
Whoa.
2.5. And Steinbrenner came up to us and said, you know, do you think Travis can throw out the first pitch? I said, George, he's a John. Yeah, he can throw. So we worked on his throwing. He couldn't throw a baseball because it was too heavy for him.
Wow.
So we got a rubber ball and put red hashtags on it and made it look like his stitches. And he's out there throwing. So he threw a strike to his buddy, Rick Cerrone. And the problem was I had to pitch that night. And it's in the playoffs. It was the first home game for the Yankees. And I had to pitch that night. And I told the umpire, I said, I may have a hard time the first inning or so. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm crying. He said, I am too. We'll wing it. I said, okay, just widen out your strike zone and help me out. But Travis threw the first pitches out, and, you know, and God bless him. He's let's see, he was born in 78. So he's 43.
Yeah. Tommy, thank you, my friend, for taking the time to do Is there anything else you want to say before we?
No, I just appreciate everybody, their concerns over my family, my friends, and all the stuff that's happened to us. And good Lord willing, I'll be in the Hall of Fame. If not, I'll be Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana, playing in Ross Porter's celebrity golf tournament.
DJ,
You
bless your
got
heart.
it, buddy. Thank you.
Stay healthy.
I better.
Tommy
Bye-bye.
John. Hope you enjoyed it. No, you did.
It was great. I enjoyed it.
We'll have more.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.